What's up, everyone? Connor Daly here. I've got a lot of questions recently about the tools that we have in the Indy cars, in the modern Indy car, and I want to give people a good idea of what we as drivers have access to in the car, what we can adjust during races, practice sessions, every time we're in the vehicle on an oval, for example, and road course. And I've taken a couple pictures inside the cockpit, which I will put up in the video to kind of let you guys know where these things are, what we have to do to access them. And yeah, I want to just get into it because I hope that this will just really paint a better picture for you when we say these things. In interviews, you often hear drivers say, well, I had to work with the tools a lot in the car. And people are like, well, what the heck are those? Is it a hammer? Is it a screwdriver? Well, no, it's not those things. So let's get into it. First, we only have access to the weight jacker on ovals. So if you hear weight jacker usage, that's only on ovals. We do not have that on road courses. I've put up a picture here that my producer Bobby will put on the screen now. That's of our steering wheel. You'll see a lot of different buttons, but the weight jacker is the plus and minus button on the dash, on the steering wheel, not the dash itself, but the steering wheel. And then that basically controls how much weight you can move to the right front corner of the car or the left front corner of the car. Now, it changes the cross weight of the vehicle. It changes the ride height of the vehicle. Because at Indy, at the Indianapolis 500, you'll notice that drivers will either hold a button down each straight or press a button at the exit of turn 4, press a button at the exit of turn 2 to fully engage the weight jacker, which lowers the rear of the car to go faster down the straight. And then when you press the left button, in my case, some teams have it as you hold it, and it just all the way lowers the rear. And then when they release it, it pops back up into exactly where you want it to be. So when you see a driver press the right button, the rear lowers. And when you see them press the left button, the rear comes back up. So there's multiple ways to do that. But if it's not in qualifying mode, which is really only used at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, there were a couple folks using it at Nashville because the Nashville race ended up being a lap where you were full throttle for both laps. And when you don't have to lift off the throttle, you want to try to find every bit of speed possible. So if you can get the rear lower down the straights, that means free speed. However, it didn't really work out for everyone, but every small thing matters. So let's talk about the weight jacker without qualifying mode. In a normal situation, you will start with a number on your dash that is usually 0, or it depends on, you can run any number, but that just kind of means the middle. And I like to run it at 0, and you can go to plus 50 or minus 50. And then some teams you can even go plus 100 or minus 100, depending on the weight, depending on how different you want to use the weight, the cross weight of the car. I usually have my weight jacker in 10-pound increments. So if I press it once to the right, it's plus 10 pounds to the right front, plus 20, obviously plus 30, 40, 50. If you get above 50, you have a real bad issue with the car. But let's talk about what adding right front weight does. So if you add right front weight on an oval, let's say you're 0 to plus 10, plus 20. That means you're struggling with a bit of insecurity in the corner. The rear is a little bit loose, and you need a little bit more stability. It does create understeer because adding right front weight, that's just what it does. There's, I'm sure, a scientific explanation why it does that, but that's what happens. So if you're really struggling with oversteer, especially entry security, for me personally, it's very effective at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for securing the initial turn. If you're a little bit free, a little bit sketchy initial turn, add a little bit of right front weight, and that'll help. However, it might add exit understeer as well. So you're kind of fighting a couple different things with that, but there are ways to improve your balance with the weight jacker. Now, if you're a little bit too tight in the NASCAR terms, or if you have a little bit too much understeer, go left with the button. So you can go minus 10, minus 20, and that will usually help you turn the car more aggressively. Now, it changes the crossweight of the car. It allows the car to do several different things. The weight jacker is definitely a smaller change than what we're going to talk about next, which are the anti-roll bars. But that is essentially what the weight jacker does. It's a pretty instantaneous click. It's a very impressive system on that basically just helps us as drivers go faster and help us feel better. Indianapolis 500, it's used a lot. I would say at a place like the short ovals, you can use it a little bit. I don't go crazy on the weight jacker personally. I did at Nashville, for example, the most recent race. I was struggling with an extremely loose car at the beginning of the race, and I was plus 50 on the right front, which means that I was looking for all the help I can get security-wise. So let's move on to the roll bars. So there's a front anti-roll bar and a rear anti-roll bar, and there's anti-roll bars pretty much in every single race car that exists. Now, at the beginning of my IndyCar career, I was really not a rear anti-roll bar guy. I would almost tell the team not to bring it to the track. The rear anti-roll bar adds a lot of rotation. The car in the Aeroscreen era, not the Aeroscreen era, the Aero Kit era with a lot of downforce. The rear anti-roll bar would usually make it a little bit too unstable for me. Now I always run the anti-roll bar. The Aeroscreen has added a lot of weight, and you need a lot of rotation mechanically in the car. So I've put up a picture here, which Bobby will do for me. You'll see in this picture the front anti-roll bar, which is on the right side of the car, the right side of the cockpit. So that front anti-roll bar has 6 different positions, 6 being stiff, full stiff, 1 being full soft. Now, if the car is oversteering, you have the option to go stiffer on the bar. Some teams, it depends on where you want the balance of the car. But if you can start both bars at 3 and 3, that means you have positions to go stiffer, you have positions to go softer. Now, for me, on the ovals, for sure, you want rotation, but you need help with security. The rear bar gives you a ton of rotation, but if you're having to run the rear bar really stiff, that means you're in trouble. You've got a ton of understeer or oversteer, and you need to, the rear bar fully stiff means that you have a ton of understeer, probably bit for some front wing. But the front anti-roll bar, if you're going to go softer on that, that means that you need the car to turn more. So by going softer on the front roll bar, you probably are already stiff on the rear roll bar, but let's just focus on the front for now. For me, at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, for example, the front anti-roll bar a little bit stiffer, position 4 or 5, really helps you secure the entry to the car, or entry to the corner. So when you're turning in at 235 miles an hour, whatever it is, and you need a little bit more to lean on, a little bit more confidence, you go stiffer on the front anti-roll bar. Now, we have this in the race. Sometimes you'll start the stint at full stiff. You'll end up full soft because you need it to turn. Sometimes you need it to turn at the beginning of the race, so you start soft and end up with the car loose, so you go stiff towards the end. Now, I'm going to put a picture up now of the rear anti-roll bar, which is on the left side of the car. The rear anti-roll bar is, if you're having to adjust that, it's usually you're in trouble, or you need a lot of help. Because the rear anti-roll bar for me is something that I usually run in the softest position. It's good because it rotates the car, having the rear bar connected, but you can disconnect it. There are a lot of people who run the setups nowadays with just the front bar and the rear bar completely disconnected. I don't know of many of those these days. Back in the day, my first few years of IndyCar, there would be more rear bar disconnected and only using the front bar. But the rear bar, let's say, I will give you, for example, the positions that I started the race in at Nashville. So I started the race in front bar P4, rear bar P1. Now, I was super loose in Nashville, so I ended up at still P1 on the rear bar because I had no room to make it any softer, P6 on the front bar, full stiff, and then right front weight plus 50. Now, what happens when you make a pit stop? Okay, I'm going to want front wing out at the pit stop because I was far too loose. So we take a turn of front wing out. Those bars immediately get reset. So I go back to P3 on the front bar as I leave the pits, go back to 0 on the weight jacker, and still remain at 1 on the rear bar. All right, so there's one more adjustment I want to tell you guys about that we have in the car that is maybe a little bit less critical for the balance of the car, but overall it could help a lot depending on where you're at in a race stint, depending on if you've locked the front tires before, and that is the brake bias adjuster. So the brake bias adjuster can actually be either on the left side or the right side of the car. There's a factory kind of Dallara adjuster that's in the chassis kind of on the right side, pretty far, actually quite a far reach on the right side of the car, and it's a quarter turn adjuster or a half turn adjuster. Usually a quarter turn is 1/4%, half turn is about 0.5%, but sometimes, depending on how your adjuster is set up, sometimes just 2 clicks. I usually say in clicks because my adjuster in the JHR car, the Juncos Hollinger Racing Chevrolet, is on the left side, about right here. I'm on a steering wheel, boom, adjuster right there. And if you go towards the front, usually it's left side to the front, depending on the car, or depending on the situation. It could be right side to the front. But let's say 1 click is how I would tell my team, hey, I went 1 click to the front on bias. 2 clicks to the front is usually about 1%, maybe a bit more than that. It depends on the rate of adjustment, depends on what you've got in the car. But if you're locking the front tires a little bit too much on a road and street course, maybe go 1 click to the rear, and that's enough, maybe 2. If you've smoked the fronts, like I did at the first practice in Portland, because the braking is much different now with the hybrid technology that we've got on board the car, I went about 2 or 3 clicks to the rear to make sure I didn't lock again, and I could kind of keep that tire in basically from not exploding or having a terrible flat spot on it. So usually on the ovals, the brake bias percentage is around 55%, which is kind of 55% towards the front. That is more equal because more towards 50-50 because you don't want to smoke the fronts into the pit box and take out all your guys, all the people that are in the pit box. But the road and street courses, usually it's a little bit more around 58, 59%, maybe even 60, depending on the car balance and depending on how your car stops. Could even be up into the even into the 60%. That would be a bit aggressive. That means that the brake system is probably not working as efficiently as you need it to be. But yeah, you could adjust that anytime in the race, depending on how the stint goes. And usually in the rain, you want to adjust it straight back to the rear as well to kind of even out the brake bias and make sure you don't smoke the fronts on a wet track. Hopefully that helps a little bit on understanding what these tools can do. It's something that the entire stint you're almost working both bars the whole way. Now, if you don't have to, that's usually good. That means you're in a good window. Tire pressures the team can adjust at every stop. That is obviously not something that we are able to adjust, but those are the main things that we are looking at. There's a lot of other stuff on the steering wheel that I'm sure you saw earlier. You know, fuel trim switches. If you hear the team calling us a fuel trim switch, go to position 3, go to position 4 on the dash. That controls the fuel trim. So how lean are you running? How rich are you running? There's, maximum power is full rich. That'll be any number. You can set whatever number on the dash, whatever number on the little dash spinny wheel that you want. That can be your full rich setting. Normally for teams, it's the higher you go number-wise, the leaner the car is to try to save fuel, make a fuel strategy work. That's why you hear different numbers being called. In the hybrid era, we have more dash positions now. We have more fuel trim switches. It used to be P1 to P8. Now it's P1 to P12. And then in default 2, there's 12 to 24 as well. So there's a lot of different configurations for running the energy consumption, running the fuel trim switches. There's a wide range of things. So that's pretty much it. We've got those tools. We've got basically it all depends on what we feel, and you hope to have these adjustments sort of in the window for the race, and then they're just meant to be assistance. You're never going to fix your entire problem with just front roll bar adjustments or just rear roll bar adjustments, but it does help you. So I hope this helps put in perspective what tools we have as drivers to adjust in the car. And at the road courses, there's no weight jacker, but you usually have both roll bars. So road courses, very much different to ovals. Sometimes the road course, I would say you can get a little bit more aggressive with both roll bar adjustments, because the penalty for having the balance out of the window or making a small mistake is far less than the oval. But that's it. If you have any more questions, if you need to know anything else about the INDYCAR and what we can do inside of the car, please let me know in the comments. Leave a like on the video if you enjoy it. When we hit 10,000 subscribers on this channel, on my YouTube channel, I definitely want to do a big giveaway of sorts, some kind of cool giveaway. So be sure to subscribe, turn your notifications on for this channel, and obviously welcome to the off season. We're going to try to learn more about INDYCAR racing as we go, and thanks for tuning in.